National anthem generally is fair louder, but today I think it's a little muted. Thanks, I think everybody is overawed by the presence of a Sangeetha Kalanidhi. Sanjay, I have only one thing in common with you, and that's not music. The sugar coffee that you had with MS Amma is what I had from her, in the manner you describe in your book. So that's the only thing common between the two of us. But I'm going to start off with a question that has a rather more than just about you and your Carnatic music. The question is, where does art and an artist, where do they move away from one another, or where do they substantially converge into each other?
I don't think they ever move away. They're always together. So I don't think you can...
I'll give you the context. There is somebody who said, and I'm quoting them, that when they're listening to Sanjay Subrahmanyan, there is a lot more of Sanjay Subrahmanyan in the concert than the art of Carnatic music. So perhaps it's one way of saying you're so big a persona in Carnatic music.
Yeah, I think the art has taken over me, so people don't see the difference, I think. So because, see, I've lived the music all my life, so I suppose they can't separate the two, and they can't call me Carnatic music, so they call me Sanjay, I guess.
Sanjay, I'm also going to tell you one more thing. There are people in the audience who've already whispered in my ears that they also expect you to croon a little as the day goes by, so please be prepared. I'm going to ask you at some point in time to, hey, I'll need a hand mic. Yeah. It's right here. Yes. Does it work though? Yeah, no, it works. I'm going to ask you at some point in time to croon. Maybe by then you'll get your Shruti for your Hari Kamboji. But let's go to Krupa for a minute. Krupa, you've written 3 books of totally 3 different genres. Your River Remembers was a documentary, right?
Yeah, it's non-fiction.
Right? The other was a biography. One is a work of fiction. I know when it came to a biography, you speak about Wasim Akram's biography, how you were inspired. And the only thing common to Wasim Akram and your subject is their common love for cricket.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
He explains in his book as to why he chose you. Could you tell us how you agreed to be a part of the book?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I've been a journalist for so long in Chennai, I know that a Sanjay interview is a rare occurrence. He speaks very rarely to the press, and I also know that it would make for an incredible opportunity to sort of, I also knew when he asked me to do this book that it would make for an incredible opportunity to, sit with somebody whose music I've enjoyed for so many years. I've been a regular at his concerts, and so there was just no question. In that context of knowing the fact that Sanjay does not give interviews, and the fact that he was asking me to write his biography, on top of the cherry on top of it all was that he loved my novel. I think it was just, it was impossible to say no, even if I was just 2 weeks postpartum when I agreed to this under the delirium of childbirth. So.
Coming back, Sanjay, we'll take it from here, about your dislike, if I can use the word, with the media. I remember decades ago having a conversation with you, I'm sure you don't, and you were very easily available at that point in time. I just had to say, Sanjay, I want to speak to you for the Indian Express. You did, and it was typically a Sanjay no-holds-barred, like a concert of Sanjay. Where and why did this Cold War with the media happen? You mentioned that even in your book.
Basically, I found the questions very repetitive after a point. So
Hints not taken. Hints not taken.
no, that's okay. So it was very tiring after a point because, and most times you get people coming in and asking you what is your favorite ragam, and see, even the age of Wikipedia, you don't want somebody to come and ask you whom did you learn music from. And I have to sit and answer those questions again and again every time. So it becomes very... and the other thing is, usually what happens is when you travel outside Chennai for a concert, the press generally tends to interview you before the concert. And they say, what can we expect, or how is this city's Rasikas different from the other cities, and what is it, have you come here? You can go 83 times to Bangalore for a concert and they'll say, have you been to Bangalore before? And all that kind of stuff, you know. So
okay, I have some questions
that
which
gets
I know
to you after so that gets to you after a while. And then you decide, okay, I mean, I'm not going to say anything new or anything different. And so by shutting up for a few years, I gathered enough material to write a book.
Sanjay, there is this hibernative capacity in you. You go away, you come back. Media, music
I'm bear-sized.
That's a good one. But tell me this. You spoke about a few years of your music being your worst year, 1 year of your music being your worst year in your book. Why would you call it your worst year, apart from the fact that you...
There were struggles that I was going through in interpreting the music, and I had problems with my voice specifically, and I was not singing with the ease with which I could do it before. So
somebody disagrees with you here.
That's okay. No, so that's why so that is what it is.
Okay. Sanjay, before we go any further, I think... you've spoken about your Hari Kamboji. Even in the presence of, when you were getting married to her, you were listening to another Swaram concert. They were playing Hari Kamboji. M.S. Subbulakshmi was sitting there and she was enjoying it, you were enjoying it. She noticed that you were enjoying it. One line of Hari Kamboji for the crowd, please.
Generally, I don't sing when I wear pants.
No, you're not going to remove it and sing.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll do it later, no? We'll continue.
Okay. Then I come back to this about, you speak about Chaplin influence very early in your book, Charlie Chaplin. What about Charlie Chaplin influenced you?
No, his biography, his autobiography, actually, when I read through the book, I found it very, very moving, and the honesty with which he discusses his beginning years, especially in the UK when he's growing up, and his mother and all that, very, very moving and very honest biography, and that kind of hit a spark inside me at that point of time. Though I didn't follow up on what Chaplin did, because when I read the autobiography of Chaplin, I realized he wrote it very late in his life, like he was almost past 70, I think. So I told myself that I will not write a book before I turn at least as old as Chaplin was. But then...
And then you read Krupa.
Yeah. No, I didn't meet Krupa. I decided to write the book Krupa. And yeah.
Krupa, how Chaplinesque, to the extent of being honest in his biography, did you find Sanjay? And were there aspects of Sanjay that he was hesitant to talk about, but you feel you did get him out and speak about?
I mean, as for what exactly he was hesitant about, I'll leave it up to him if he would ever like to talk about it. But I actually, I know Sanjay says in the acknowledgement that I kind of even brought out, I think that's just him being magnanimous. He was actually a delight to interview. He came with the open mind of having knowing what he wanted to say, and we'd sort of discussed these were the areas that we were going to do, and this is what we were going to talk about. And for instance, this is what I talked about even in the Bangalore launch that we had. You don't expect a Sangeetha Kalanidhi to talk about not liking his voice in a chapter where you're sitting down to interview him specifically about his Sangeetha Kalanidhi. It came out of nowhere even for me. But that's the kind of honesty and the kind of, how he was looking at himself and his art, directly and honestly. And I don't think we've had a biography by an artist that is this critical or that is this honest in a while. We usually get hagiographies, or we get, oh, that person told me I am this great, or, So this was a rare sort of an interview session for me as well, and the book, I think, reflects that honesty.
Sanjay, we start off again going back to Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin's book was about tragedy, fear, fights, etc. I remember he's saying somewhere that he loves to walk in the rains because people don't see you crying. But if you go through on that note, there seems to be a very nice, almost envious, smooth sailing for a child, for a kid who moves into Carnatic music seamlessly, finds his space there, grows, can very easily say bye to a profession that he was working in, then moves on to becoming a Sangeetha Kalanidhi, then decides to work on other forms of the same music and all that. How do you see, what is it, that factor that you add to your life? Is it focus? Is it something else that's made success such a constant cast cousin of yours?
Well, I wouldn't agree with you that success was always there, because there were plenty of failures. To be fair, it's not that it was smooth sailing all along. I may not have described the failures in detail like Chaplin did, because I'm not a clown. that tragic clown, their personalities are built on that type of dual personality. They have that suffering and they show it out as comedy. Laughing at themselves and others. So that is a different personality. I'm not that kind of a personality.
Okay, now let's just take there. You also spoke about this Nadaswaram influence on the Carnatic musician's voice, etc. And
pardon? Nadaswaram?
The Nadaswaram influence on your music.
Yeah.
And you also spoke about how that had also altered partly your singing style. Wind over string in your music?
There's no string, no? The voice?
No strings.
There's only wind.
Yeah.
So I am no strings attached.
No strings attached. Can you tell us how you evolved in this? Because Nadaswaram is not something that...
No, I'll tell you. It's very easy. For instance, since I can actually explain it like this. See, I'll use a little bit of Tamil, excuse me. So, avarta SRD Vaidyanathan ennoda Gurunadhar. So, avarta paadratche, he will teach me a song. இப்போ ஹரிகாம்போஜியை பாடுறோம் அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ததறின இப்படி நீங்கள் பாடுறீங்க, தரன இப்படியும் பாடலாம்ல அப்படின்னு கேட்பார். So then these are small things. It's either the volume or the state of mind or the free-spirited nature of the way he brings out that phrase that sparks something inside you and it allows you to let go. So then when you sing, இப்படியும் பாடலாம், அப்படியும் பாடலாம். So in that extra dimension is what he adds in his own way, and you try and pick that out and give it yourself.
Did that affect your voice?
Affect my voice? No.
It did.
No.
Now, how much of your music is craft? How much of your music is art?
It's 100% craft and 100% art. Okay. So there is no, because without this the other cannot exist. You can't say art and not have craft. You can't say craft and not have art. So there is no, you can't data mine it, So if you ask me, I'd say they coexist.
There is this, you just spoke in Tamil, and then there's a whole chapter about you in Tamil. And you are probably one of those artists who brought in a lot of Tamil kritis into your Carnatic music repertoire. You perform, You did a lot more at that point in time among contemporaries on Tamil. Now, had it something to do with your mother tongue, a comfort zone? Or was it that you believed that there was this area that didn't get its due in the larger space of Carnatic music?
It's everything. Whatever you say also applies, because it is my mother tongue, and it is a fact that it did not get its due in the Carnatic. Both are valid points, but more importantly for me, as I sing Tamil compositions and the feedback I get from my audiences, who specifically come and say, sir, you Tamil paattu panningala sir, romba nalla irundhathu. So that is a point, because you have to value your audience. Without them, I can sit at home and sing. So ultimately, when I get that feedback, obviously it is touching a chord somewhere. So, and it's easy, and I also realize that it's easier for me to articulate the lyrics, tell them, share the experience of the poet or the writer musically with the audience. So all these things get enhanced because you are comfortable in that language, as opposed to say Sanskrit or Telugu or Malayalam or any other language for that matter. But over the years, slowly you get more comfortable with other languages also. You take care to understand a bit more. In your younger age, you were more obsessed with the music, the musicality, the ragam, the nuances and those things. Then when you grow older, you start reading the texts, you start interpreting lyrics, then you want to share newer lyrics that have not been there in the concerts before and things like that. So then you start working on the articulation of the lyrics.
Now, speaking about lyrics, you also talk about somebody who was positively critical about your pronunciation in languages other than Tamil. But coming back to the main point, how much is bhakti? Many Carnatic musicians believe that it's an integral part of Carnatic music. How much do you agree with the statement that bhakti is an integral part of Carnatic music?
See, bhakti is definitely a part of Carnatic music. Nobody is denying it. Why is it an issue today? It has never been an issue for the last 300 years. Nobody has questioned this.
Yeah, I've heard you talk.
Why are you suddenly coming and asking me this question?
You know why.
No,
there is a context.
Obviously, the context is invalid, right?
Okay. Okay, now let me push this question. When bhakti becomes a very important part of your music, is language so important?
See, everything is important. There is no such thing as, is this more important, is this less important? All that is semantics. I don't believe in all that. An artist is there to sing and to deliver. All these emotions are all there. See, if I sing a Tyagaraja Kriti, I am talking about Rama, I am talking about Tyagaraja's bhakti to Rama. I am interpreting that bhakti. Now, what is going on inside my mind? My talam has to come right, the mridangam has to play well, my tambura should be in tune, there shouldn't be a disturbance in the auditorium. All these things are also going in my mind at the same time. As much as Tyagaraja's bhakti for Rama, or my bhakti for Tyagaraja, or my bhakti for Shankarabharanam, or my bhakti for that brilliant beat that the mridang is displaying, or my... See, everything is there, no? It's not just one thing. Right? So it's when you try and isolate one element and say, is this more, is this less, it's difficult. Because as an artist, you are thinking about 500 different things at the same time.
Krupa, here's this issue. Now, he talks about, I remember at one of his lectures, I think Ariyagudi Memorial or one of this, he talks about, if I remember, Natakuranji, Pallavi, you talk about. Natala Kuranji or something like that. And you said this was a far, well before people spoke about secularism coming into Carnatic music. There was Alathur brothers. The Alathur brothers had brought in this Pallavi, etc. There are contemporary controversies, perceived or real, qua Carnatic musicians, qua even a Sangeetha Kalanidhi. Did you think it was important to probe that and open up on this subject?
That's a good question. One of the things that I didn't want is to frame this book in the idea of how I wanted an artist to respond, as opposed to what you heard him yourself. So what his idea to approach this particular issue or all of these issues or his own craft was. I wanted to give him the space to do that. And the second thing is, a memoir is not a reactionary piece. A memoir is not reacting to news. It is a book, it is a sort of a document for the ages. And so that was something I was pretty mindful of, that if you follow the trajectory of his career, I think there's already an answer to this question. And I think apart from the answer that he's given, there are also other ways of answering this question within this book, in which he talks about gravitating towards lyrics that question status quo, which is probably also why he sings so much in Tamil, or how he embraces, a Vachana by Akkama Devi. So there is a set pattern to the artist, and just because we have an idea now of what the discourse is, I didn't want to force fit that discourse into his memoir, because I wanted it at the end of the day to still be his book. And so even if we did have off-the-record chats, which will remain off the record.
Quite a lot.
I didn't want the book to sound reactionary, that I was kind of sure of.
Next issue that I'd like you to deal with, Sanjay, is technology. Today, you were also talking about somewhere about people, the number of people who come to listen to Carnatic music. I must share a little snippet with the audience. Many, many years ago, a couple of decades ago, when Music India had come out with a lot of music, 8 or 10 of them were about Hindustani musicians, and we had only 2, one Balamurali Krishna and one M.S. Subbulakshmi, of representing the Carnatic genre. So I'd asked Sanjay Subrahmanyan then, does he think that Hindustani music is getting far more value or space among music lovers than Carnatic music? He gave me a wonderful answer, which is worth telling all of you. He said, please understand, the great Hindustani musicians sang in the courts of Akbar, etc., while Ilaiyaraja and the others sang at the small agrarams of Tiruvayur. And therefore, the audience was always limited, but the music always lasted. So he said, be assured, and this was before about 20 years ago when Carnatic music hadn't really got the craze that the Margari Utsavam gets now in Chennai. Coming back, now do you think Carnatic music has really made it up, and really there's a larger acceptance of Carnatic music?
No.
There isn't.
It's the same.
It's the same. Do you think it is still, is your approach also the same? It'll be this way, so be it? Or do you think there's something we need to do too, or one needs to do too?
I don't know. See, I can't speak for Carnatic music. I can only speak for myself, because it's a larger ecosystem. There are many more players and many more interests at play. So I'm an individual who's plying a trade in that sense, because we are professionals. So I can only speak for myself. To that extent, what I am trying to do on stage is to expand the audience as much as possible. And for me, in a concert, if somebody comes up to me and says, sir, I have never heard Carnatic music, this is the first time I'm listening, I enjoyed, it's a victory for me. And in the last 10 years or so, almost 90% of the concerts, I find a few people coming up and telling me this. Now, if that means something in terms of numbers, I can't actually substantiate, because we don't have data.
Correct.
So you can say what you want, but that data is not there. But for me personally, that is a win-win situation, because I'm happy that people are coming for the first time to listen to this art form. They're listening to me, they like it, and they look forward to coming in the next time also. That's all I want.
Sanjay, moving on the same, technology perhaps has partly robbed the audience, in the sense, today I can sit at home, listen to YouTube concerts, just like I can sit and watch on OTT an old film. Do you think this is taking away a part of the audience, or is there still that live concert is live concert, kattaimanga varuvom?
See, all said and done, people enjoy live experiences in every form of entertainment. Let's not restrict to Carnatic music. Like, for instance, look at the crowds for a test match. Look at the crowds for an IPL match. Look at the crowds in a cinema theater. I mean, it's the same. If you talk numbers, we have all seen test matches where you queue up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a ticket to get in for India versus Sri Lanka. At that time, when Sri Lanka had just started playing cricket in Chepauk, you could still get a huge crowd. Today, India, Australia, Chepauk is not even 40% full or 60% full. So the whole thing is about the technology, and the availability of entertainment at home automatically discourages more people from going out. And the infrastructure or the ecosystem is not exactly friendly. For instance, traveling inside a city, people are moving to satellite cities outside the city. Population has grown up so much more in the last 30 years, which means the roads are all clogged. It's not easy to move around, So unless the person offering that live experience is able to offer something that is unique, that is really worth the time, effort and money, only then you will get that crowd.
Rivers are clogged. Roads are clogged. I'm coming to you, Krupa. Rivers, remember, you started off your writing about the Madras floods. I remember that December when the tsunami hit Chennai, all their concerts were...
No tsunami, the Chennai 2015 floods.
Yeah,
right?
but even the earlier one when the tsunami
that was
hit,
2004.
And many of their concerts stood cancelled that time. What do you see is the major problem? Does your book deal with only the crisis, or does it deal with the solution to the crisis? I know I'm moving a little away from Carnatic music, but please understand, we also are talking about the writer Krupa with us. Yeah.
Right, thank you. The book deals with the reasons actually for the 2015 flood being a man-made flood. So in that sense, it also, in the critique of the reasons for the flood lies the answer also to how to understand the flood. Chennai is actually a very flat city. They call it sort of like a pancake. And so drainage is a huge issue when there's heavy rains. And so because we are also a coastal city and because we have extreme rain events because of climate change, the city is sort of, a climate hotbed, and we'll be swinging between floods and heat waves for the foreseeable future. And so the city sort of having to grapple with all of this, and that's what my book sort of tries to explain before the floods sort of became a routine affair after 2015.
Sanjay, Chennai versus audiences outside. Do you perceive when you go to a concert, you've done hundreds in Bangalore, you said, you've done a few in Hyderabad, I know for a fact. Can you geographically say, my Chennai audience is like this, my Bangalore audience is like this, or no, it's generally the same everywhere?
No, I don't see like that. I don't even try to find out if there is a difference.
Not a part of a...
No, I don't. For me, all audiences are the same.
No, but would you see, generally people believe that the Chennai is the Mecca of Carnatic music, and or are the pilgrims spreading outside of Mecca?
No. It's my city. Of course, I'm proud of that city. It's the greatest city for Carnatic music in the world. Totally.
Yeah, but would you... No, I'm asking you. When you sing...
And I still live there and I sing there most of the time. So
yeah. You come and sing in Hyderabad. Is there a structural or a thematic difference when you approach a concert?
No. There's no difference.
Okay. What's your mindset when you... are there different mindsets at different concerts?
No.
It's a constant.
It's a concert.
Okay. And what is it?
It's a concert.
What runs through the mind of this artist?
It's whatever I have to sing that day.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, like it's, I like nowadays I put out a list of songs in the morning, so I usually publish them in advance. I already prepare for the concert 2-3 days before because I know what I'm going to sing. And those songs run in my mind since the morning. I shouldn't forget the lyrics. If I'm trying to do some mathematical pallavi or something like that, I have to practice it so that I don't go and bomb it on stage. So, I mean, it's purely musical factors that are going through my mind, like normal concert. Any concert that I have, that's usually the pattern.
This has been right from the beginning? Or has
In the beginning, I was more scared. My legs would shake, and you had
like
all
the
those.
debate you went to speak. Like the debate you went to speak.
Yeah, same. So that is beginning in that, I mean, very early on, in the first few years, say 4 or 5 years. Then after that, it's an anxiety. It's like a performance anxiety. You want to do well, and you want to come away feeling good about it. So that's
You also told us that your mind runs about the talam, the pallavi that you're singing, etc. There is a pattern of very complicated pallavi tanams happening. Would you contribute to that, or would you like people, because there's a lot of laity in the crowd, which would you, which is your comfort zone?
Whatever I sing is my comfort zone.
No,
so you've heard what I sing, no?
Yeah,
so
that's my. Now the question is, the other day I was listening to one of those Tanam darbars or something. Somebody came up with the explanation of an 8 into 4 into 2 into minus something something. Would you believe in a Tanam of that kind?
No, I have done such things, but I don't believe in explaining them.
Okay.
So if I did, you wouldn't even know I did something like that.
Okay.
And you wouldn't even know if I did it right or wrong.
Oh, that's...
No, but jokes apart, the point is there is a lot of complexity in the rhythmic complexity in the music. And over the years, the challenge is to pull it off without complicating. Like, for instance, when you go and see, it is you look at it as an entertainment spectacle. Say you watch a Marvel film, let's say, for instance, you watch Spider-Man. Then you see Spider-Man climbing on these walls. You know there is an element of graphics involved, there is an element of computer involved, there is an element of whatever, But you don't bother about how they did it, right? You don't bother about what technology they used to create it. That 1.5 hours, you are amazed to see Spider-Man crawl up the wall. It is exactly that kind of effect we want to create when we do something mathematically at that point of time. It can create, something is happening. That's all. Later on, you can try and decipher what it is. You have enough time. Now you have recordings, you have YouTube, you can find out whether he did it right, wrong. You can go to my YouTube comments, they will say that line at 43.34, he missed the beat. You can find a comment, because some smart guy would have found it out. No problem. Transparency is the key. We are not hiding anything here, no?
Right.
So.
Okay. How do you react when somebody says this? Forget on media, but when you're singing a concert and you, I'm sure, realize that you've missed a beat, you've missed something that was intended to be different. Do you quickly correct? Do you let go? What happens with Sanjay?
You wouldn't know what I do. You wouldn't know what I do.
I know, but could we know from you as a theoretician?
No, listen, why did I hide it from you guys? Why do I do that? I mean, no, it's not anything. See, it happens, it happens. Those things happen. Like, for instance, when you speak, you miss a word, you miss a sentence, you forget something.
Because you have
like
spoken about how at a concert, when you were trying to sing a song at a high pitch, you realized your voice at some point in time was not cooperating. And then you had to practice, then you had to do something else, you had to revisit the premise. Something like that is what you've said in your book. Now, what I'm asking you is, does this, even given maybe your percentage is 0.1%, is there a instinctive change in the artist, or is it the confidence that keeps you going? What is it?
It has to keep going. Otherwise, I'll get up and stop singing. See, if I cannot pull it off and live with it. See, it's like you get beaten the first ball, you take your guard and hit the next ball for a boundary. This is what cricketers do. That's what musicians also do.
Okay, in the context of music.
We do exactly that. Because you have already forgotten that line. Because you are listening to the next line that I'm singing. So your attention is already taken away from that fact. See, at the end of the day, if it's 110 not out, who remembers he was beaten in the first 1 hour?
Correct.
That's
but
what it is,
so far
right?
as the batter is concerned.
Yeah, or for the bowler. If you end up with 8 wickets, nobody cares how many sixes were hit off your bowling.
But today what happens is the coach is looking at each of these deliveries, how you've played, where's your leg moving,
I am my own coach. No? So that's what I mean when I explain what I explained in the book about what happens to me. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing the job of the coach.
Correct.
By saying that I'm analyzing my music, I find these are the difficulties that I experience, and this is how I address them, and this is how I try to get over them. So that, in fact, I have already detailed that in the book in the way that you have so beautifully explained from the book.
Yeah, I know that dig that you even had about the Nadaswaram thing in your book, about how people throw back at you questions that emanate from you. But that is how people who've not read the book will get familiar with it.
Totally.
Right. So, Sanjay, you also spoke somewhere that change brings with it good and brings with it bad. Tell me a couple of bad things that contemporary Carnatic music has brought change with.
I can't speak for the music as a whole.
From your perception.
From my perception, like, see, for instance, when I change, let's say, numerically speaking, for instance. So supposing I want to change my repertoire over the years. For instance, if you see my repertoire, the kind of songs that I sang early on in my concerts, there would be a larger proportion of Trinity compositions or Telugu and Sanskrit compositions as opposed to Tamil. And then there is a change in my repertoire over time, and there is a less of these. Say, for instance, 30 years back, I would have sung 4 Tyagaraja or 5 Tyagaraja kritis in a concert. Today, I may not sing that many unless there is a specific context or it's a Tyagaraja day or something like that. Now, this can be interpreted as something bad, because you are losing out on a repository of compositions, but you are gaining something else. This is very cosmetic, but this is one of those things. Like, basically, in an art form, when you say something bad is happening, you are basically missing something that was already happening and it's not happening anymore. That is what is the complaint. Very rarely something gets appreciated for being created afresh. Like when GNB sang first, and he sang in a completely new manner and expanded a ragam, people called it neoclassical. They didn't even call it classical, because they wanted to give it a particular name that was not in tune with what they had conceived of as Carnatic music. Today, if you don't sing like GNB, you will be called neoclassical. So that is how art evolves, art changes. So this bad, it's not bad in the sense of evil or anything like that. Not like that. Again, what happens is sometimes, now in terms of craft, for instance, people, a lot of us grew up writing with fountain pens. And then we moved to this Reynolds and ballpoint pens. And always the people who wrote in fountain pen said your handwriting was always better when you used a fountain pen as opposed to a Reynolds pen. Today, a child can grow up without writing skills. They don't even need the ability to write. But there is no necessity. You have a cell phone, you have a computer, everything is digital. You don't even need to type. You can talk and it will tell you. So writing today is a skill like drawing. Now, is it good or bad? That's what I mean when I say that when new things happen, these things will go out of vogue. That's all.
Talking about cosmetic changes, etc. Chennai and waters and floods. Chennai seems to swing this pendulum. Drought, too much water. Drought, excess water. And changes seem to happen over the decades, only cosmetic. Do you see a future change happening anywhere in the nearby?
No. Short answer, no. But I think there is now a climate action plan that the Tamil Nadu government has sort of put in place. But now again with Trump coming and denying climate change, I don't know what will happen to any sort of climate work that India or Indian cities had planned, and a lot of it is dependent on the first world and those countries that have expertise. So I do know that there are some Japanese and Dutch companies that are working with Tamil Nadu to sort of fix some of these problems, because both governments have some experience in fixing their rivers and in fixing their, this sort of flooding problem. So the government is doing something, but I don't see it happening in the near future. So.
Krupa, the reason I asked you this question is a lot of people here buy their December Marguerite tickets sometime in September, October. So it is just to ensure that something is happening in Chennai so you can buy your tickets in peace.
Buy a cancelable ticket.
So, Vikram, I think I can stop here, and if there may be some questions that the audience would like to ask Krupa or Sanjay.
Translation also, and often when we read a translation, we imagine that the translator is not there. We have directly received it from the original author, and whoever has done that middle work has made themselves invisible. But obviously everything that you're reading, the translator has also touched that work also. So I'm curious to know how much of the skill of writing this book, even though it's not translating between one language and another, how much of the skill is in one way kind of hiding yourself, but in another way also like using as much of your skill as possible in showing the best possible version of the book.
We're conversing in Tanglish. In our interview, one sentence would be in English, one sentence would be in Tamil. Then I'd go home and kick myself for not interviewing him entirely in English. So then my Google Transcribe would have done the job for me. So I had to actually sit and sort of find a way to translate. Even now when he was talking about the Nadaswaram and how you sing, that conversation unfolded pretty much exactly like that when we were being interviewed, when we were doing the interviews. There is an element of that as well, but I think the skill in writing this is in being as invisible as possible, but while also mega show off, being a mega show, like see how I did that. You have to be able to do both of that, and it was actually a really interesting experience as a writer to sort of work on that part of my craft. Thank you.
Actually, I'll add to that, because see, the thing is, when we wrote the book, when we discussed the project for the book, the idea was whether it was going to be an autobiography or a biography or how it was to be written. Then they came up, she and the editor came up with the proposal that it will be written with her, but it will be in my voice. And the best feedback we have got from the book so far, I have got definitely, is that it doesn't even feel like somebody else has written the book. So that is her success in this book, if anything. That's the biggest feedback I keep getting more than anything else.
Like in previous days, in olden days, like musicians, and they used to perform in king's courts and all. So just not to demean, but have you performed anywhere in your career, like in any business world or in...
Yes, very much.
Yeah, can you just quote 2 or 3 so that...
Quite a few houses, fiefdoms I have sung. I have sung. But it's just a regular concert, and of course, I don't think I received gold coins like they did. But gold coin I've received.
Song. Though only he's a singer and one is a writer, author, and one is a good person to speak. I, being a Hyderabadi, I just observed a few songs in the past. There are a lot of Telugu words in all the songs, all the songs, Carnatic songs. This Telugu-Tamil mix has happened maybe sometime in the history, in the past history. I just wanted to know how it happened.
No. The songs are only in Telugu. There is no Telugu-Tamil mix.
Yeah, mostly in Telugu.
Purely in Telugu. Tyagaraja was a Telugu-speaking person.
Yeah.
And the Tanjore court language was Telugu.
Exactly.
So in Tanjore court, Sarboji, the Maratha court, the language was Telugu. So basically everybody composed and spoke Telugu. And it was quite common for...
mostly classical songs are all based in... half Telugu only.
Yeah. So it was very much in vogue around Tanjore. See, most of this music's hardcore elements that you hear today germinated around Tanjore area only. So there the communities that sang and all this were all Telugu speaking mostly.
Okay. And then, number 2, I just thought this as a fusion, can you chant mantras, Vedic mantras as a song? And maybe you can have a...
That has been done, sir. A lot of people have done it. It's already been done.
Sanskrit and half Telugu and half Tamil.
They have done it.
What are the names like? I just want to know.
I don't know specifically, but if you go and search in YouTube, you can find it, definitely. It's this thing. Even ChatGPT will give you.
Okay.
I thought one dimension which is occurs to me as important, I would like to mention now. I'll take about a couple of minutes, or not more than that. You are a chartered accountant and a musician. You once told me that chartered accountant is not my important profession, but only a music. Fine. But then you are both chartered accountant and musician. What are the commonalities between a chartered accountant and a musician, and what are the differences? Quickly, I run through a couple of minutes only. One, both of you are to be honest in your profession. That's for sure. No doubt about it. Both of you have to follow a discipline. No doubt about that. Difficult to get expertise in both. With chartered accounts, you have to do the grueling examination. For music, you have to practice quite a bit. Both of you grow beards. Right. Now, there is one, the difference is, in a chartered accountant, it is not creative, whereas music is creative. Right. Another thing is, in a clients, for a chartered accountant, they are independent of their clients. They're supposed to be. Chartered accountants are independent of their clients. But musicians have to be dependent on the clients, without the audience. Chartered accountants do not speak much, but write. But music is basically throat, and not much of writing though, even though you have an exception, you have written a book. Mangalam, when you do in a chartered accountancy, fine, it ends, but doesn't end. There are audit notes which will follow you throughout your life. Whereas in music, if a Mangalam is done by you, audience claps or applauds. And finally, chartered accountants do audit, and you do audition.
Hi, Sanjay. I hear you on a loop, on many, in many ways, right from Manasule to your Vallalar recordings. And what I was, really fascinated by is the Vallalar project, and how you approached it, both in terms of a resurrection of history, of a secular ideal of a different kind, also of working across boundaries in exploring musicality and music. And I really wondered if you can just, talk a little bit about that project and what you think it means to the present. And of course, I'm really tempted to sing Manasule, but I won't.
So yeah, the Vallalar project actually was a wonderful exploration, musical exploration that I did with the composer Sean Roldan, and it was a project that came from as an art commission. That's what they named it. And the idea was to 200 years of Ramalinga Swami. So they wanted to do. We started with wanting to do an album. And we came up with this whole idea, and most of the musical layout and everything was Sean Roldan's vision. Though I contributed to the songs and the lyrics and how we did it and all that. It was a very intense project and very rewarding for all of us personally. And we learned from each other and grew a lot through the whole process. The whole thing is actually available on YouTube. There is a documentary about the Vallalar and the project and all that. And even now we had a screening of the same thing in Chennai, and it was very well received. So it's a very, very new dimension to my own musical journey, and I think it's opened up a lot of spaces for me in that sense.
Sanjay, one question before I go back to the audience, which I forgot to ask. You said you were also influenced by Pakistani music. Can you tell the audience a little about that?
Yeah, see, there was a stage in around the early 2000s when I was getting restless with the Carnatic music that I was listening to and singing. And so I wanted to seek inspiration outside of the genre, to see how minds work. Because, see, you spend a lot of time learning the system, learning the music, and trying to understand a lot of aspects. And then, as you are singing, you want to implement those things, and somewhere along the line, you are not happy. So then, maybe the inspiration lies outside. You never know where you can get inspiration from. So maybe other genres of music. So, for instance, I actually went and downloaded the top 100 songs in Apple Music or things like that, just to listen and see. And the samayatla, I came across specific Hindustani music I was listening to a lot, and as a result, I moved to some of these great Pakistani singers like Salamat Ali, Nazakat Ali, Amanat Ali, Fateh Ali, and Mehdi Hassan's ghazals and things like that. Actually, it's not my discovery, because in my own house, I had one particular uncle who would get up at 6:30 in the morning and listen to Pakistan radio, to listen to Salamat Ali Khan's concert. And he would always come to me and say, Hindustani Sangeetha idilla, tulukam pattu dhaan. But I had that influence from him, so it was easy to reconnect with those musicians and all that.
Can you give us at least one line from that part of the world?
Can't remember.
You refused to sing today.
I used to buy those LP records, and the medium of music has changed from LP to cassettes to CDs and all that. Now once again we are seeing the rebirth of vinyl records. I want to know how you listen to music, and also do you think that these digital music, do they capture all the nuances of Carnatic music as we should be hearing?
In a vinyl record, or if you listen to the same music on Spotify or on YouTube, it doesn't change.
See, the beauty of physical medium, that is LP or cassette or CD, is we have a memory associated with it. In a digital medium, you don't feel like you own something. That is what is missing when you consume it digitally. Like even when you had a DVD of a film, or when you had a cassette, you will remember that TDK cassette in which your uncle had written the first song. See, those kinds of nostalgic matters you will not get in a digital experience. It is exactly that reason why people are going back to vinyl records, because they want to have the feeling of having physically experienced it. That's the only. But music listening wise, it doesn't change, and I still listen only on digital medium. I don't have a physical player at home at the moment, but my son has bought a vinyl player.
I just wanted to add something. That's a great question, because the book also, I feel, Sanjay has sort of written the spoken to me in the book in a way that sort of traces the history of how we listen to music. He starts off by talking about how he became a musician, which is where he was converting these spool tapes that were lying in his house. So you start at spool tapes, which he was listening to, and then you end up at Coke Studio.
And heard an RTP of Balamurali Krishna from his grandfather's repertoire.
Yeah, so in a sense, the history of the last 40-50 years of how we listen to music is also a part of Sanjay's memoir. So buy the book.
And if I'm not pushing the envelope, the book is available. And those of you who are curious about what makes somebody such a brilliant artist, Sangeetha Kalanidhi, so young, so achieved, so willing to talk, move on, spread wings, I think it's worth investing. Today's takeaway would be a signature perhaps on the book from the authors who are with us.
Like, is it a boon or a bane?
See, that will happen. How people consume it. See, that is where the challenge is. Supposing people reject it, then it will die. And then whatever you do with artificial intelligence, it can't come here and sing Harikamboji. No? It can't sing artificial intelligence cannot sing. I have to sing.
Correct. Also, sir, on a really bad day in your work or in general, what is that music that you would listen, or what is that raga that you want to
I listen to Ilaiyaraja.
Okay.
Oh yes, I think that's another chapter that is very interesting in Sanjay's life. Sanjay, would you like to tell us a little about your experience with Ilaiyaraja?
It's a red letter day today, because he's right at this moment in London, and the symphony is going to be played today. So It's a phenomenal occasion. And the last 1 year I have had a very, very enriching experience with the man. I visited him several times. I interviewed him for a show in Sharjah, and I sang a couple of songs for his films. And it's a phenomenal mind, phenomenal musical mind. And he's such a lovable person when you meet him, and he's so warm and welcoming. And the only thing that occupies his mind is music. He's not interested in anything else. No other discussions bother him. The only thing he's interested, you talk music, he's ready to talk. If you want to talk something, so, but that's Chinnanjira Kiliye Kannamma Selva Kalanchiyame. You have to ask like that.
See? Oh, I didn't know I had to say on that note.
It's a plug for the book.
Yeah.
I like to, listen to your candid talk. I have a couple of questions. One is, you have extensively traveled a lot. So did you actually receive some kind of transcendental moment in your traveling, or some kind of transformativeness that has happened to you as a person? The other one is, you've also done a lot of innovation in the music. So how do you balance between innovation and the tradition in the Carnatic music? Thank you.
See, there is nothing expands. You go across different cultures, you see different cultures, and then you come back thinking that all the world is the same. There's no difference between here and anywhere else. People are people. So that's, if anything, that's my learning from traveling. Tradition and innovation is a constant, it's a constant balance. How we can't explain that, because it's very organic. You don't think like that, because the training and your own continuous experience helps you in that. So it's like driving a car. You have to take a left, you have to brake, you have to give way for somebody else. It's like that. It becomes second nature to you.
Do you think that compared to Carnatic music, Hindustani music is difficult to learn?
No, all music is difficult to learn. There is no difference between one and the other. Every music is difficult to learn.
Yeah, but second question is, what is the impact of a language on the music? For example, they say Urdu and Hindi is more amenable for melodious music in terms of Hindustani.
All languages are good for music. There is no such thing as this language is. See, those days they wrote, Sundara Telinginil Paati say or somebody will say Urdu is melodic. They are all people who talk about their languages. As a musician or as a singer, for me, when I listen to music, like recently I heard Fado music, Portuguese music. Now, has anybody written about Portuguese being a musical language or not?
Yeah.
Have they written? Have you heard of it? No. Yeah. But there exists an entire musical system in Portugal which sings and plays in Portuguese. So in what way is that language non-musical? Every language is musical.
Yeah, I don't come from a musical family, musician's family. But I'm an electronic music producer. So is there any suggestion that you can give me to become a best electronic music composer or the
Sir, I don't know, sir. I am only a singer.
Yeah.
That different.
The other one is, when you listen to any music, so what is that you need to observe? So what are the elements that you need to consider while listening to the music?
First you have to listen, sir. Basically you have to listen. When you are listening, you should like it. If you don't like it, don't listen. That's all. If you like it, then automatically you will listen more. When you listen more, you will learn more about it. It becomes a habit, that's all.
Very individualistic plane. I'm not confident that, where do you get the next generation to come in? Like back home, if I have to probably put my son or daughter there, it's sort of a risk matrix. No, it's better off he be an engineer or a doctor or whatever, or a CA, rather than this. In Hindustani, I feel there's more structure to it. They are the Gharana system still strong. But somewhere I think in the Carnatic classical especially, maybe I'm being parochial talking only of Hyderabad, it's not a very encouraging sign. So how do we get this going that the next generation actually latches on to a very rich legacy?
Its musical system develops on its own. It has its own infrastructure. It has its own way of spreading, and as far as next generation all is concerned, the same doubt was expressed by my father to my generation, and from his father to his generation, and so on and so forth. Because if you take the Music Academy Journal in 1931 or 32, G.N. Balasubramanian's father, G.V. Narayan Swami Iyer, presided over the opening day, and in the inaugural address, he said that today youngsters are not taking to classical music, and it has a bleak future. And if you go back another 50 years, in 1872, there is a gazette that was published by the British government, where there is a note that says, after the death of the great masters, there is doubt whether the future of classical music can sustain. Now, this is 1872. Recorded fact, you can verify it. So now, going by the last 150 years history, you can, if you are smart enough, you can project it to the future and see how it will happen. We can't say, right? You can't say. But we are all taking efforts. Like you are taking efforts by asking your child to learn music. I am taking efforts by singing this music and keeping it going. And somebody else is taking the effort by coming forward and supporting this music. So as long as these things keep happening, this music will continue. That's the only guarantee I can give.
Hyderabad. While making the concert, do you consciously tweak the list of songs for as per the venue or the city? Is there any conscious effort for that?
Yeah, there is. Because I have Hyderabad what I sang. So I try to avoid those songs. So I work with the database like that. So this is one conscious decision. I try to not repeat many songs. One or two I will definitely sing because everybody wants to hear those songs. So that's Music Academy and all. I have the song list for the last 35 years what I have sung. I have hardly repeated one or
if
two.
you see his biography, he'll tell you his first concert, second concert, what Varnam he sang, what song he sang.
So consciously I make a list.
We've started with some nepotism. My son asked the first question, so I will ask the last question. I was just thinking about what I recently read, what Shujat said, saying that his father, Vilayat Khan, put him through so much rigor, and he's whatever he is because of that rigor. And I don't want my son to do that. I want him to have a joyous childhood. That's what he said. So I want to ask you this question that if you have to, and he also said it in the same interview, but you have to respect Goddess Saraswati. I have to go through that rigor, but I want to have a more joyous childhood to my son. So I just want to ask you, do you think that this rigor which art demands is something which means that you have to sacrifice something else?
It is not just art. See, anybody who has succeeded, you will realize that that rigor has been there at childhood. Take the Williams sisters, tennis. At what age they were playing? Take Tiger Woods. At what age he was playing golf? So, in most cases, you will realize that ballet dancers, for instance, from the age of 5 and 6, they are put through that rigor. Some of them don't even become professionals. That is a problem with parenting. It's not. I can't. Thankfully, that's happened in my life 20 years back. They are all grown up, my children now. But that's the problem with parenting. So, and sometimes what happens is children take to it easily. See, you can always find that in a class of 30 children or 40 children, you will always find those 4 or 5 making the extra effort, taking that more. They're ready for that rigor. No? So those kids will definitely do well. Sometimes the parents are more eager. So they want their kids to do as well as those kids. So they think this rigor will matter. It is a case-by-case basis. You can never give, there is no one size fits all in this. We are all parents, we know what it is.
I'm a chartered accountant and my son is not, and I hope he has a joyous childhood.
So am I. I'm also a chartered accountant, my son is not.